All right, I'm here with my buddy Scarlett, and this is Scarlett's roadmap to success. Now, she's a sweet girl, and the good prognosis for her guardian because she does go on pack walks with other dogs, and she's jumped into vans with dogs, and so she's it proves that she can be around other dogs. But she is reactive, and sometimes the dogs that pass by hear this picture, nice, beautiful picture window, or when she's on the leash. Now, there's something, a lot of dogs are reactive out of frustration. Some dogs are reactive out of the perception that they need to be guarding someone. And so we spend a lot of time in this session talking about creating what I like to call a healthy leader-follower dynamic. We introduce a marker word. You need to, hopefully by the time you see this video, you've already done this, but so remember, later today, walk around your house. Yes, piece of kibble. Take a couple steps, yes. Do it at least once in every place in your house, but usually every couple of steps, yes. And I would do the same thing with the clicker. About a half an hour later, and I'd probably do the same thing with the pause interrupter, either the or beep beep beep, puppy puppy puppy. You seem to like them all. She's responded well to all of them. Pick one of those and just say beep beep beep, treat, beep beep beep, treat, and make it high pitch. Make sure you say it 3 or 4 times in a row. And again, walk around your house. This loading exercise. Let me see. What are we on today? Thursday. Get this done by Sunday. So try to do each one of those twice a day, every day till Sunday. And spread them out, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and switch the order. And so after a while, she hears all those sounds and she knows that the yes means I did something good, the click means I did something good, I'm gonna get a treat, and the pause interrupter just means I'm gonna hear that sound and get a treat. Then eventually you can use that pause interrupter once you practice the hand targeting. So let's see if I can do one right here. So let's say she's doing something we don't like. I go beep, 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 touch, or boop, yes. And I have a video for hand targeting if you forget how to do it. Make sure you have a big movement, have your hand stop on either side of her nose, and then leave your hand there while she's still looking at it. Wait for her to touch it. As soon as she does, say yes, and then put the treat on the hand. Don't move the hand away. And remember, half of how dogs learn is when they don't do what you want, you don't mark and don't reward. So if you ask her to sit, she doesn't sit, don't pet her. You're confusing her. It's okay not to sit or to sit, I get the same reward. Now, pet your dog as much as you want, but when you're training them, only reward them when they offer you the behavior you want. Anything other than that is confusing for your dog and can cause some frustration. So practice that hand targeting. Practice should be 1 to 3 minutes maximum. I usually tell my clients 1 to 2 minutes. The first minute, they're kind of rusty, they're warming up. The second minute is you get the butter. The third minute is when you start getting failures. Yes. And so practice that and get to the point where you can have her run from like your kitchen to way over here. You say, boop, then chop your hand. She runs over, touch her nose. Yes, and you put the treat there. Then you can use the pause interrupter combining with that. So if she starts sniffing something you don't want her to sniff, you say the beep, 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 beep. She looks at you, you chop, she runs over, touches your nose, your hand, you've redirected her. Then you give her a bully stick, a collagen stick. You take her for a walk or something like that. For food items, you might want to get her a cow kneecap. There's like flesh that they'll tear off of it in like 5 minutes. After that, it's cartilage. And they'll chew on that cartilage. So it's something that's organic. She does get a little bit, but it's not, we're worried about her weight a little bit. And that's something my dogs, I say collagen sticks and bully sticks are good for 1 chew. A kneecap is usually good for like 5 to 10 chews. Eventually you'll have what looks like the end of a spoon, kind of really porous bone. Then I throw that one away and get another one. But I have several of those in my house. My dogs really like chewing on those from time to time. All right, we also went over the introduced cues. Remember, there's 4 parts to a cue. The cue, sit, the action, the dog sitting, the marker word, yes, to tell it they did what you want, and then the reward, the pet or the treat. But when we teach a dog, we introduce the cue last. We lure the dog until it's easy to lure them, and I do this often with the warm-up. We did this for the hand targeting movement. Yes, 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 boop, yes. So when the dog you're done it, yeah, he actually just turned around and looked. When the dog is kind of figuring it out, that's when you sneak the cue in first. And remember, the more you say it, the less you mean it. So if you say sit, 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 it's either the environment's too distracting or you haven't fully taught your dog to sit. A lot of times we don't think that we think we taught our dog to sit with the word, but we say sit, this is what they're actually responding to. You say sit without doing this, the dog doesn't know it because this is what they're responding to. So eventually we want to, yes, fade the lure and just say sit without using the motion, and the dog does it, then we know they have the verbal cue. And a hand targeting is a great way to lure dogs into a down or to do the hurricane that I showed you doing the circle or whatever it is. So it's a nice bridge. It's also a nice way of judging dog consent. So if you have a friend come over and she knows how to do boop and you don't know if she wants to play with your friend or not, your friend goes boop and she turns her head away, she's saying, no, I don't want to play with him, which is totally fine. We went over dog consent. I have a lesson for that one, but remember, dogs, direct eye contact for a dog is a challenge. Walking straight up to them is confrontational. Leaning over them is intimidating. And when dogs dominate another, they pat on top of the head. So remember to start petting her on her chin or on her chest or her shoulders. You can work up there as long as she doesn't give a cutoff signal. But when you're putting the harness on, she gave you a cutoff signal. She turns away. So I try to make a way to that positive. I would hold your harness up, like hold that circle in front of her. If her nose is here, hold the harness up here and have a treat. Hold it here. Have her stick her own head through that and then say yes and give her the treat. Don't attach it. Then take it off and go somewhere else. Just have her practice. Eventually say, you can add a cue like uniform, hold it up. She comes over, shoves her head through there. Then you clip and give her a treat at the end of it. So remember, dogs often don't like doing things because because they end up with a loss. So try to find a way so your dog gets a reward or there's something in it for them. Let me see. Going in a little bit of a weird order, if you know that she's going to bark and you want to do that faux cue, use that celebrate technique. So if she's about to bark something, let's say she's barking at something, sound in the yard, go out there when she's barking and just try to anticipate. Right between barks, you say protect, bark, yes, and scratch her bottom. Don't worry about a treat. She probably won't take one at that point. And then she's about to do it again. You see her kind of protect, bark, yes, scratch her bottom. Eventually now you can say protect, and she barks, and she thinks there's an intruder or whatever it is. That way if somebody's at your door, you can cue that response, yes. All right, I'm celebrating right now, although she kind of responded to my snap, but right now I'm gonna wait, and if she SITs, gives me eye contact, lays down, I'm gonna say the marker word and reward her. So that's celebrating. Remember, the more that you reward her, I've never seen a dog do that. Her tail's going up and down. She really liked that. Watch for those body mechanics. But basically, celebrating is rewarding her when she offers desired behaviors. You're going to do this a lot. You want to do it so often that you get in a habit of it, you don't even realize that you're doing it. So watch out when she comes to you. Yes, and pet her. Lays down. Yes. You want her to drop things? Remember, when she has an object in her mouth, this isn't celebrating, but just quietly pull out a treat, hold it here in front of her mouth. When she drops it, say yes, put the treat in her mouth, and don't pick the object up. And after a while, and you might also celebrate when she gets something. So every time she goes and grabs it, you say yes and scratch her bottom when she picks something up. Well, eventually you can add that cue. So you know she's going to go pick up that new squeaky toy. Go get her a new toy. Usually new toys will cause them to pick them up. So you throw it on the ground, and right before she gets it, say snag. And she picks it up, and you say yes and scratch her bottom. Now you can say snag means pick it up. And then eventually, when you know that when you hold the treat here, she's going to drop it, you say drop, hold the treat up, she drops it, yes, and you put the treat in her mouth. Now you've taught her to pick things up and put things down. And that can be really helpful when you're playing fetch. Have some treats. Now I'm using higher value treats. You might use her kibble. So using a treat, if the treat is so high value she doesn't care about anything else, get a lower value treat. We want it to be rewarding but not overpaying her. Watch for those cutoff signals because again, even for you, there might be times where you're going to trim her nails or do something and she doesn't like it. Then find a way to do it. Make it a positive. Like a lot of times dogs don't like their nails trimmed, so what we do is we hold a treat to their lips and touch the top of their paw and then release the treat. Do that for all the paws until they're not pulling their paw back. Then we hold a treat to their lips, pick the paw up, and then release the treat and let the paw go. Eventually hold a digit up, yes, and give them a treat. Eventually hold it up and touch it with a trimmer. So going at your dog's pace in stages and stopping when they give you cutoff signals helps your dog have more confidence in you, helps your dog feel more comfortable with these things. Let me see. So celebrate the things that she does when you don't ask for it, including eye contact. And on walks, I would do that. I would have a treat in your hand the whole time. Every time she looks at you, say yes and hold the treat out. Stop, so she has to come back to you. That makes you more powerful. She's going to check in with you more often. Those treats are essentially $100 bills. And I would, every block, I would do a find it away from the street, a nice grassy area. And she's and then every once in a while, I just ask for a sit, yes, click, treat, or a yes and treat, and then walk a little bit more. If you're thinking that she might be aroused, ask for a sit, ask for basic obedience. If she can't give it to you, that's your indicator. I have walked her into an environment that is too stimulus. If I continue, I should not expect her to listen to me very well, unless I want to practice and help her understand that. So there's a dog around. Okay, we're going to cross the street or whatever the case may be. You've been doing that. That's a good idea, but checking in with rewarding check-ins, having her demonstrate basic obedience, and every once in a while doing a find it for no reason, as well as the find it aways, just going to help make the walk a little bit more engaging for you. And the more she checks in with you, the more she's looking for the boogie dog. All right, we also want to watch out for her manners. So when she paws at you, nudges you, barks at you for attention, you're going to ask her to do a sit or a down or a boop. And if she does that, you're only going to ask one time. If she does it, you're going to say your marker word and reward her. If she doesn't do it, you're just on to the next thing. We're not punishing the dog, but we're not going to reinforce it. Yes, she just laid down. And so let me see. For the food, put her food down. Get her about 6 to 8 green beans, chop them up and put them in with her food. And that will help if you're taking away a little bit of food. The fiber will help her feel a little bit fuller. Enrichment. There are other enrichment things that you can do. One of the things I do is I get a bell pepper, get a yellow or an orange one. Make sure the bottom is flat so it sits up. Cut the top off and scoop out all the seeds. Get some peanut butter. I know you're worried about her weight, but this is a good enrichment item. I usually put it in a boiling pot of water, the whole thing of peanut butter, so it kind of liquefies it. Then I take that and I smear it on the inside of the bell pepper. Then I take some canned pumpkins, shove that in there with some green beans, maybe some blueberries, other stuff, vegetables the dog's allowed to have. And then I put it in the freezer and let it congeal for about a half an hour, 45 minutes. Then I take a banana, stick a banana on the top, it looks funny, and then I put it in a Ziploc bag, put it in the freezer overnight. She can eat that entire thing. That's a wonderful enrichment item where she's using food. Now, you can use also scent games. We did Cookie in the Corner here. I have a video for that if you need me to refresh your memory. You might want to Google scent games. There is a scent course. The guy's name is Ford, who's a great scent trainer, and there's a lot of courses you can do. You can have a little container. It looks like a little Altoids box with some vents, and you can have clover or different things in it. You hide it in a cupboard somewhere, and she's got to search your whole house using her nose. Wonderful way to drain energy, and you don't have to go outside. So that you might want to Google some scent games. There's a lot of different things like that. You can also get those toilet paper tubes or the paper towel tubes, crumple up paper with kibble in them and stuff them in there. Get the boxes with the dog confetti, put them in there with sprinkle some kibble in there. If you want to do the boxes, put the box down first and just show you have a kibble or piece of treat, throw it in there. Just do that until she's comfortable sticking her head all the way in there. Some dogs get a little bit spooked on that at first. But eventually they can put the paper towel tube with the dog confetti and with some kibble. Now she's just rooting around in there. Great way for her to get some energy burn. Now when she comes up and she's huffing at you, she's asking for some attention. If you can, take her outside, do a little bit of the hurricane. Take her for a 3-minute sniff walk. Do the touch or hand targeting, just some basic obedience. It doesn't take a lot. But dogs really do better if we give them exercise and mental stimulation about every 3 to 4 hours as opposed to one bunch. So when she asks for a little bit, step away from your work for 2 or 3 minutes. It's good for your mental health as well, and helps her, and she's a lovely dog. Let me see, what else? Try to incorporate some rules. Some dogs are protective of their guardians because the guardians don't ask them to restrain themselves and don't ask them to do anything for them. So before you put the harness on, tell her to sit. When she puts the harness on, and again, do the trick that I talked about earlier, put the harness on. And when you get done, yes, give her a treat, attach the leash. Yes, give her a treat, go to the door, sit. Then I open the door. Step outside, sit. Sit at every corner. Sit before you prepare my food. I know I'm just saying sit for a lot of stuff. There's other rules that you can do as well. But the more that she practices a little bit of impulse control, the more that she practices listening to you, you're creating a little bit more of a healthy leader-follower dynamic instead of a peer dynamic. And that helps some dogs feel the need to be less protective of you. And so look for some basic cues. Teach her bang your dad, teach her roll over, teach her to do circles, whatever it is. There's a lot of fun things. You don't have to teach her a lot of crazy tricks, but if you have more and more things, just like us, the more skills I have, the taller I sit, the better I feel about myself. And the more confident I am, the less I can let little things go. When somebody wrongs me, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to hold that back. I'm going to let them do their thing. But when you're insecure and you're uncomfortable, every little thing is a big deal. So she doesn't seem like a super anxious dog, but those things can be great for any dog. Be a student of her body language. So again, when she's home, how is she holding her ears? What do her eyes look like? How is the tension in her face? How is she holding her mouth? Where is her nose, up or down? How about her tail? Is it going up and down like I saw earlier? Is she doing, how does she wag it or how does she hold it when she's just relaxed and neutral? How does her body stiffness look and what does her lean look? And then when you have a friend come over, somebody that she likes, and she's happy, how does her tail move differently? How do her ears look different? So now you want to categorize different various emotional states. And so that way when you're on a walk and you start seeing her go from a relaxed to a lower head, eyes big, ears forward, mouth closes and gets stiff, she's saying something. And so if we recognize that and we move her away then, she doesn't have to raise her voice. Dogs barking is like us shouting. So we first say, excuse me, I felt offended by what you're doing. If they say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that, that solves the problem. So the more that we're a student of her body language and her energy, it's going to help us learn how to be a better getter out of those situations. The exercise that you're doing here, the engage, disengage, and what we did in the video above, remember, that's a very intensive activity for the dogs if you do it right. So make sure you practice in short sets and then give your dog a couple minutes to relax and decompress. Then go practice again, maybe 2-3 practice sessions with a 3 to 5 minute break away. Now, I'd also recommend, and I forgot to say this in the video, keep score. So when you're doing this, every time you click that she looks at the dog, every click. So one dog passes by, you might get 4 clicks. Great, so now we're at 4-0. Every time a growl I wouldn't really count as a score, but like a bark, that would be a score against us. Now four positives versus 1 negative response. And then keep a journal, a little notebook, and just write down the number of what your score was. And then you might put a little note underneath it, like what's your distance? Now remember, the distance is going to ebb and flow based on the energy of the dog. One dog walking calmly, you might be closer. 2 dogs that are barking and going crazy, you might have to move further away. And remember, it's not a linear process. You have up days, down days. And so that's okay. We just make sure that we need to go at our dog's pace. A lot of us, we get greedy and we practice to failure. The idea for the engage, disengage is to have a positive experience. So maybe a score of like 40-0, and the next day another score 44-0, next day 30-0. And we want to practice as much as we can, but the quality of our practice is more important than the quantity. And if she starts getting stressed and she doesn't want to do it, then to back off a little bit. We want to make sure it's a positive emotional response for her. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to go over. Anything else? Feed her out of that snuffle mat. The Mega Paw treat ball is the orange ball. They also have one that looks like a flying saucer. It's kind of like 2 plates, like a saucer. They have the Sir Bob-a-lot. Looks kind of like a bobber that you would use if you're fishing. There's one that's a Kong. Yes, and that's a good way of releasing anxiety. Sometimes you're just shaking it off like she is there. Remember to stop petting her on top of the head. Try to start underneath. Yes, and more than anything else, celebrate what's going on. Now, if you have questions, watch this video once a week until when you watch this video, there's nothing new in here. If you have any questions, text or call me. If I don't hear from you, I assume everything's going well. If in a month you're still having these sort of problems, you watch this video, we've gone through everything, we can arrange to have somebody, we'll meet at Clover Park and get another dog. We'll practice the engage, disengage game. Ideally, I'd love to get you to the point where there are dogs that you can go walking with. And so if you see somebody in your neighborhood and you've practiced that a little bit, hey, do you ever go to Clover Park? And you could, when you're walking, instead of completely avoiding, there should be enough distance across the street. Sometimes if you see people, you can parallel walk. We do this a lot. So you're walking on this side of the street, they're walking on that side of the street, kind of mirror them. Now pay attention to people. If they seem to be avoiding you, they might have a reactive dog, they might just want to play. But if you see you're a neighbor and you talk to them and you're without Scarlett, hey, my dog sometimes barks at other dogs. I'm looking at other, your tail's going up and down again. I'm looking for other dogs to practice walking with. You guys walk a lot. We'd love to come and walk with you at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. Maybe you find a dog or 2 that you can walk in your neighborhood on a regular basis. And maybe you're walking in the street and they're walking on the sidewalk. Santa Monica is a little closer than it is in other parts of the country, but eventually you might get closer and closer. And if we can get her to play with the other dogs, great, but that's not necessarily our goal. Our goal is just really a version of immersion therapy. We just want her to be around something and have a positive emotional response. Last thing, make sure every time she looks at a dog, even if you're not playing the engage, disengage game, if you don't have a treat, yes, scratch her bottom. Every time she passes a dog or looks at a dog or does something positive, celebrate that. Not just for sits and downs, but if she looks at a dog out the window and doesn't do anything, yes, good job. Looking at a dog and not barking, my mom likes that. I get attention for that, and I'm more likely to do it. Scarlett, all right, come here, Scarlett girl. Come here. Sit. Well, this is my buddy Scarlett, and this is Scarlett's roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you mean it.